will start our first virtual Cabinet meeting of South Kesteven District Council for 2021. I'm just going to briefly do some of the housekeeping notes to start. I'll have a brief introduction and then we'll get cracking. So firstly, to note that this meeting is being recorded. If I can ask members to turn on their cameras now and make sure any telephones are put onto silent mode and you remove any possible distractions. If I could also ask members to refrain from writing comments in the chat function. This is for the use of Cabinet members to indicate that they would like to speak. When invited to speak, you should turn on your microphone. And please do your best to remember to mute your microphone once you have finished speaking. And should you forget, your microphone will be muted for you. If you do intend to leave the meeting prior to the finish, if you could also please indicate this through the chat function as well. Well, as I've said, welcome to our first Cabinet meeting of 2021. I hope you all had a enjoyable and as safe as possible Christmas and New Year. I know slightly different to how we'd normally celebrate it. And if I could firstly, of course, on behalf of the Cabinet and Council, send our best wishes to Councillor Dean Ward. For those of you who are aware, Dean sadly suffered a stroke. He is back home now and he has been messaging to say he's got no long-term side effects. And I'm sure we all wish on behalf of the Council a very speedy recovery to a very esteemed colleague and Mayor of Grantham. Well, I'm sure that we all hope to be embarking on 2021 significantly further forward in our fight against COVID-19. However, as we know, the new strain of the virus is particularly virulent, which has meant that the nation is back into lockdown. Although this is not where any of us wanted to be, it is fundamental that the restrictions are adhered to in order to protect the NHS and to save lives. But that being said, there is great hope that in 2021 we will see a return to normality. Our country has an ambitious vaccination programme already in place, with a third vaccine recently approved. And I'm particularly proud that South Kesteven continues to play its part with our vaccination centre at the Mears Leisure Centre in Grantham. And I know obviously we've got another vaccination centre down in Stamford at St Mary's Surgery. And personally, I look forward to being invited when it is my time and not a minute before that to get that appointment so I can go and get vaccinated as well. And I know a number of our own members have already benefited, which is really fantastic news. However, as I think we all know, right now things are incredibly tough and it remains an immensely challenging time for our residents and also our local businesses. As we experience one of the most difficult periods of our lifetime, I think the Council continues to stand with our communities, providing support through business grants administered by Invest SK, and obviously we've also got that community and emotional support through our community hub. And we will continue to seize every opportunity that we can to carve out a robust road for recovery for our district here in South Kesteven. Lying ahead, I believe there are so many opportunities and challenges also for our district, and today is a key part of our planning for the future, where we'll consider the Council's forward plan, the draft budget proposals to fund both key frontline services and attract inward investment and growth. And as part of our drive for improvement, we will also hear today from our Cabinet Member for Housing and Planning, who will update us on our housing voids process and performance, and the procurement of the Housing Stock Condition Survey. A further key item on the agenda is a report on the Hackney Carriage and private hire licensing policy from our Cabinet Member for Commercial and Operations, and we'll also be dealing and considering any key and non-key decisions taken under delegated powers. So with a packed agenda ahead of us, without further ado, let's move on to the first item of agenda, which is the register of attendance, please. Who's clerking this meeting today?
I will be clerking it, leader. It's Lucy.
Yep, fantastic. Super. If you want to do the register then, please.
Thank you. Councillor Callum Cook.
Present.
Councillor Barry Dobson.
Present.
Councillor Annie Mason.
Present.
Councillor Dr Peter Mosley.
Present.
Councillor Robert Reid.
Present.
Councillor Adam Stokes.
Present.
Councillor Rosemary Trollope-Bellew.
Present.
Everyone present, leader, if they can.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lucy. And for any non-Cabinet members, obviously we are aware of your attendance, so that will also be noted. So therefore, if we can move on to agenda item number 2, which is the minutes of the previous meeting, and that's from pages 5 to 9. So the only thing I'd like to say firstly on this, it doesn't actually feel that long ago since it happened. So in In terms of the Culture and Visitor Economy OSC, they considered a call-in on the 5th of January and decided to refer the decision back to Cabinet, and that will be referred to the next meeting of the Cabinet, so it won't be up for discussion today. Do we have any notes or comments from Cabinet members on the minutes of our last meeting? No? In that case, I'm happy to propose if somebody would like to second.
I'd second, Callum.
Brilliant.
Indeed.
So if we can move to the vote on the minutes then, please, Lucy.
Councillor Kellen Cook.
For.
Councillor Barry Dobson.
4.
Councillor Annie Mason.
4.
Councillor Dr Peter Mosley.
4.
Councillor Robert Reid.
4.
Councillor Adam Stokes.
4.
Councillor Rosemary Trollope-Bellew.
4.
That's carried, Leader.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Therefore, moving on to item number 3, obviously disclosure of interests. If you do have any interests throughout the meeting, then please don't hesitate to disclose these as and when, and obviously your interests as declared as per the register of interests obviously stand for the meeting as well. Therefore, moving on to the items for recommendation to Council, we have the first agenda item number 4, which is the Local Council Tax Support Scheme Proposals 2021 to 22. I'll hand over to Councillor Stokes, please.
Yes, thank you, Leader. So the report in front of you about the Local Council Tax Support Scheme, and this report reviews the council's Local Council Tax Support Scheme in advance of the 21-22 financial year. So I'm asking Cabinet to recommend to the Council the Local Council Tax Support Scheme 21-22 based on the same overarching criteria as this year's scheme. The current scheme has been in existence since April 2013. And the key criteria has remained unchanged as it has served the needs of our residents since that date. The cost of the scheme is approximately 7.2 million, and this report confirms there's been an increase in claimant numbers since March, specifically working age claimants, which can be attributed to the pandemic and the impact on the economy. Modelling work that has been undertaken suggests that whilst claimant numbers have stabilised, it is anticipated that the claims will increase over the next year. Members are reminded that the District Council pays its proportion of the share of the scheme based on the percentage of the overall tax bill, which is approximately 9%. It is recommended that the current upper limit of 80% to all working age claimants, pensioners are a protected group and therefore receive 100% support, remains the same for 21-22. The major precepting authorities have been consulted upon for the scheme proposals for 21-22, and both Lincolnshire County Council and the Police and Crime Commissioner support the scheme as presented. But the Police and Crime Commissioner would like a request to discount for any eligible special constables that live in the district. LCC, Lincolnshire County Council, are supportive of this proposal. However, whilst it is recognised the contribution the special constables make in our district, I'm also very mindful of the vital work undertaken across all our communities, be that volunteers, those working in the care sector, or providing vital support to all our most vulnerable. Therefore, the current scheme allows those who live and work in our district, and irrespective of their role, to apply for financial help should they require it. My view is that the current scheme provides sufficient financial help for those that need it without specifying the specific role they undertake, and therefore I do not support the inclusion of a discount for special constables from April 2021. And it should be noted that throughout Lincolnshire there is only going to be one district council that will be supporting that proposal from the Police and Crime Commissioner. So therefore, Chairman, Leader, I would like to go back to the recommendations and propose those. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Councillor Stokes. Do I have a seconder for that, please?
I'll second it.
Second.
Gosh, I think we're all jumping. I'll take Councillor Trollope-Bellew. It sounded like her voice first. So I'll open up to Cabinet members first then, please. Do I have any speakers on this? Councillor Dr Peter Mosley.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Leader. I'm sitting on this with Adam really, in terms of the council tax support, and especially with regards to the item number 2. I mean, obviously, it is within the gift of precepting authorities to, to account for such things as this, and I think that the Police and Crime Commissioner could, in fact, precept to provide a benefit for his special constables without putting that burden burden onto another precepting authority that is already under significant financial strain. Whilst, like I said with Adam, I recognise the work that the special constables do. I don't think that the district council can be responsible for everyone in this, and I think that that there is an opportunity for the Police and Crime Commissioner to recognise the work within his own budgetary constraints. So I'm with supporting item 1 but not item 2 on that particular proposal.
Okay, thank you for that. And Councillor Reid, please.
Thank you very much, Leader. Like my colleague, Dr. Peter Mosley, I too am very comfortable to support the local council tax support scheme. I've given as item 1, item 2, I've given. Sorry, you can't even see me, can you? Can now. Item 2, I've given this very detailed consideration. And whereby which I'd very much like to support any initiative for the south of the county that has any police initiative involved with it. I take careful note that there's only one other authority that has been supportive of this inclusion, and agree with Cabinet colleagues and support them with their view that if we say yes to this, then we suddenly get very many other demands, i.e. even from the NHS or anybody that is going to be looking to supplementary forms of income at this time. So therefore, I will not be supporting item 2. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Reid. We'll go to Councillor Trollope-Bellew, please.
Thank you, Leader. Like has been said by the previous councillors, I can support item 1, but on reflection, I think item 2, we're going to have to say at this time where finances are going to be very difficult, that I'm going to have to say that I can't support item 2.
Brilliant, thank you. And Councillor Mason, please.
Thank you, Leader. Just to say that I'm supportive of all the comments that's been made. Special constables do an incredible job, as we all said. However, I think that the majority of the voluntary and community sector also have done an incredible job in these difficult times. So I'm supportive of Adam's comments. Thank you.
No, thank you, Councillor Mason. You've made a really good point there. I think there could be so many exceptions for people who have contributed so much to our society, particularly in the last year. And I certainly echo the points that the police and the specials are doing an exceptional job at this present time. But as there are so many others across our society that also could be exempt from paying council tax as a benefit in kind. If I could go to Councillor Wotton first, then please.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this item. I fully understand your concerns regarding the roles of the Special Constabulary in South Kesteven. In fact, there are only 22 officers who are performing valuable duty on behalf of us. You mentioned other volunteers, and I totally accept and agree with you about that. But what other volunteer stops a vehicle at 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and is more liable to be attacked than any other volunteer? They carry out a valuable duty, which they've done so since the early 1800s, and they continue to do so today, with about averaging 20 hours a week of unpaid voluntary work. I served in Bedfordshire Police, and I was always grateful for their support on a Friday and Saturday night, particularly, as I said, stopping a vehicle in the early hours of the morning. You don't know who's in that vehicle, and also for the trouble when the pubs come out. I mean, they are doing valuable work, contributing over 49,000 hours of unpaid work throughout the year, protecting us whilst we sleep at night. So I would support the Police and Crime Commissioner in this request. Thank you, Chairman.
No, thank you, Councillor Wotton, for those observations, and I'm sure as well that it will be debated at the overview and scrutiny budget meeting as well, because I'm sure there'll be views coming from that as well.
Yeah, Chairman, may I add, Chairman, I forgot to declare the fact that I'm Vice Chairman of the Lincolnshire Police and Crime Panel. I'm speaking today as an ordinary councillor and a member of the National Association of Retired Police Officers. Thank you.
Thank you. That's been noted. So we'll move on to another non-cabinet member. So Councillor Dilks, please.
Very kind. Thank you, Callum, and Happy New Year to everyone. I think for the first time probably ever, I find myself in agreement with Councillor Wotton, and that's a nice thing to start the year on, isn't it? I've got to say, I served as a TA soldier, and we were paid. We were paid, and I think that's right. We made a contribution, I think, to the community, and we were paid the same rates as a regular soldier of the same rank. That was the principle. I've always thought it was very odd, but perhaps I do have some understanding of why special constables are not paid. They don't receive any money at all, and I think they do a terrific job. I think we all agree that they do. And I just think this proposal from the Police and Crime Commissioner is a good one, I've got to say, and I think it should be further considered. I just have a question. Forgive me, I did read the Cabinet papers before the meeting, but I can't actually find the bit in the agenda pack at the moment. How much would this cost this council if all 22 applied for the benefit that's suggested? How much would it cost? It didn't seem to be a great deal to me. It looked as if it was just a few £100s. Am I right or am I wrong?
I can hand over to Councillor Stokes to respond to that point.
Thank you, Chair, Leader.
Yes, thank you, Leader. If you look at page 23 of which is Appendix B from the Police and Crime Commissioner, you'll see at the top that it's you'll see South Kesteven in the table. So it's a total of 9,564.
Yeah, that's what I thought, Chairman, and Leader, if I might say so. And that doesn't seem a lot of money. It's less than £10,000. You know, when we're thinking of spending a lot more than that or underwriting a lot more than that on other things, I won't go into them. You know,
I know which things you mean, Councillor Dilks.
Yeah, thank you. It doesn't seem a great deal of money for an incentive and a thank you to the special constables that don't actually receive any income at all, no payment they don't get for a lot of hours that they put in, and we need them now. You know, I mean, I don't want to go into it again, but you know, number of police officers have been reduced over the years. I know that we're trying to recruit some more now, but you know, we need those special constables. They are vital. So I do support the Police and Crime Commissioner in this aspect. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, I think it would be certainly for me. I think, you know, as these roles are so vital, it's a shame that the police also don't give them remuneration for their work that they conduct out in the community as well. But I know they've got significant budget pressures as well. So, Councillor Stokes, obviously you have proposed that we will proceed with point 1, and we will be not supporting point 2, and that was seconded by Councillor Trollope-Bellew. That's correct.
That is correct, Leader.
Wonderful. Then can we move to the vote then, please, Lucy?
Sorry, Leader, yes. Councillor Callum Cook.
4.
Councillor Barry Dobson.
4.
Councillor Annie Mason.
4.
Councillor Dr. Peter Mosley.
4.
Councillor Robert Reid.
4.
Councillor Adam Stokes.
4.
Councillor Rosemary Trollope-Bellew.
4.
That's Reid, Leader.
That's super. Thank you very much. Therefore, moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is agenda item number 5, which is the draft budget proposals for 2021-22, and I'll hand over to Councillor Stokes, please.
Yes, thank you, Leader. This is the meaty agenda item of the year, for me anyway. So the report in front of you presents to the Cabinet the draft budget estimates for 21-22, revenue and capital for both the General Fund and the Housing Revenue Account, and provides details that have been included in the budget proposals. So I'm asking the Cabinet to consider the budget proposals for 21-22 in respect of the General Fund, the Housing Fund, Housing Revenue Account, and then to approve consultation in respect to the proposed council tax levies for 21-22 for the period of 13th of Jan to the 26th of Jan. Approve the cessation of the deepened special expense area from the 1st of April 2021. Consider the proposed fees and charges for 21-22. Those have been amended and they were sent out this morning by email. And number 5, approve the increase of the regeneration reserve by £500,000 by the following movements: 250k movement from the commercial reserve and 250k movement from the investor save reserve. And number 6, approve the climate change reserve to be included in the 21-22 budget framework proposals at a minimum level of 20k. So the proposals in front of you are based on the government funding announcements and the provisional settlement information received on the 17th of December 2020. The final settlement information will be confirmed during February. The focus of the budgets has been to support the actions set out in the recently approved corporate plan and to reflect the anticipated costs and income impact of the ongoing COVID pandemic. Whilst the budget proposals have been formulated based on the latest understanding of the financial landscape and is underpinned by a prudent financial approach, the overall budget proposals are not immune for variation and fluctuation, and so there may be a possibility of an amended budget may be presented later in the financial year, but this will be kept under constant review. The funding levels are relatively similar to the current year, and this provides some financial certainty for the year ahead. This has been bolstered by the 1 year only lower tier grant of £362,000, which is to provide some level of financial protection against unforeseen COVID costs. It is recommended that this one-off grant is passed to the budget stabilisation reserve and only to be used if there are budget pressures during the year. There are a number of key budgetary proposals that have been incorporated to ensure that a balanced position is achieved, and also to support the ongoing transformation of services to ensure they are efficient and continue to deliver value for money. They are set out at Table 5, and it is important to ensure the delivery of these actions are sufficiently resourced and delivered to avoid unnecessary budget gaps during the year. Capacity to deliver the actions is an area that needs to be kept under review due to the Council also needing to adequately resource the actions needed to respond to the pandemic demands. The report also provides details of the proposed levels of investment and fee funding for each Council-owned companies. The funding levels are aligned to the business plans that have been considered by Companies Committee, and I need to give a note of caution in respect of Leisure SK Limited. The management fee for the first year of trading, as the fee level was established prior to the current lockdown, which has caused the centres to close for the foreseeable future. The budget confirms that the government has allowed the council to consider a £5 increase on Band D charge for 21-22, and in order to ensure that we continue to invest and deliver our quality services, the Cabinet is currently considering the £5 option, but is keen to hear the views of our residents, so we'll make a recommendation after the consultation has finished. With regards to the HRA, the Housing Revenue Account, the key element of the budget setting for the HRA is rent setting. This is determined by government guidance, which is calculated at CPI plus 1%. Given the historical low of CPI in September, the rent increase is only 1.5%. Whilst this is good news for tenants, it does mean the HRA Finance Business Plan will see a lower than projected rental income projection over the medium term. Cabinet can be assured that the HRA budget proposals contains bids that have been put forward to support the delivery of the improvements needed to respond to the issues arising from the recent audit compliance report. However, I need to make members aware that HRA can only present a 1-year revenue budget due to the pressures arising from the rising expenditure and forecast reductions in income. This clearly isn't sustainable, and if unchecked, will mean reserves will need to be used to maintain service levels. Therefore, myself and Councillor Robert Reid will work together to address this issue in readiness for the budget setting for 22-23. The capital programmes for both the General Fund and the HRA are contained in the report and detailed at Appendix B. For the General Fund, the programme is focused on investment in our assets, and for the HRA, the programme is focused on the investment in the housing stock, but also the investment plans for an ambitious new build programme. I should also mention that the HRA capital programme will also need reviewing once the amount of Homes England funding is known. And details of the programme will be developed and be presented to the Cabinet at a later date. Finally, the report sets out the details and proposed use of the Council reserves. Once again, the budgets are prepared without any reliance on using reserves to support day-to-day expenditure. It is prudent to retain the budget stabilisation reserve and to add the one-off grant in order to maintain a healthy balance. But we do need to, obviously the ongoing pandemic is a new risk and continued risk for the council with regards to expenditure, which has caused a reduction in income from fees and charges, and also commercial income that fall outside the scope of government income compensation scheme. Transformation savings not been, I mean, obviously we've got the transformation savings in the budget again. We will get these delivered, but obviously resources have been diverted away to deal with the continuing lockdown and pandemic. But apart from that, Leader, I'd like to propose the recommendations 1 to 6. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Councillor Stokes, for that. And I can't believe actually that we're here again setting a budget now for 2022. I think that the last year has certainly been a whirlwind and has been a difficult time for so many of us. And I know collectively as a council and also as a cabinet, you know, we've all worked extremely hard on developing this year's budget proposals, and I'd like to thank everybody for their input and their support, especially Adam, Councillor Stokes, and also our Section 151 officer, Richard Wiles. I think if I can just say a few words before I hand over to some of the cabinet members, you know, the provisional settlement by government is welcome, as it has shown that there has been no reduction in funding from central government, and the government has recognised and continues to recognise the significant role that local authorities are playing in response to the pandemic, and the additional funding that they do give us, whether that's supporting businesses locally or to us as an organisation, is very welcome. And of course, the government has once again recognised the financial challenges district councils face and granted the option of a £5 increase on a Band D property. So of course we are keen to hear views from our residents on this proposal that we will then obviously consider at our February meeting. And this year's budget has also been formulated to drive forward the corporate plan ambitions. Obviously we all set those last year with our new corporate plan to ensure that quality services continue to be delivered and that the council can fund the COVID recovery plans that are in place. And of course, I think Councillor Stokes has already reiterated, you know, the Cabinet and the Council will have to consider continuing to make and proposing amendments to the budget during next year in the need of any change in fluctuation or within the markets that we need to then alter the way in which the Council works. I am pleased to confirm and see that the budget sees the continuation of the ward member grant scheme, the community fund scheme and the food bank funding donations. In fact, reading through the draft budget, there are no detrimental funding reductions across any of the council priority areas. There are proposed changes to some fees and charges, and I welcome feedback from the joint budget OSC that will meet tomorrow on the proposals tabled. And then, of course, we will then consider their views at our next cabinet meeting. And as Councillor Stokes has mentioned in respect to the HRA, I am pleased to confirm that the funding is in place to support the agreed actions following the recently identified compliance issues. And I think we all recognise the financial challenges the HRA is facing, and I'm confident that Councillor Stokes and Councillor Reid, alongside all their officers and members, will spearhead a fundamental review that positions the HRA into a financially stable position for the medium term, as well as fixing the historical areas of concern raised recently. And finally, the reserves and balances for the Council remain at a healthy and robust level that are only used to fund specific projects and an investment programme, but also provides a financial cushion to protect the Council from the volatile period ahead. And I think none of us can doubt it is going to be a challenging 12 months ahead of us, even with the COVID recovery. So I'd firstly like to hand over to Councillor Dr. Peter Mosley, please.
Thank you very much, Colin. I'm assuming you're seconding the proposals. Before I continue.
Yes, I will second.
Just checking because of the rules of debate and all that. No, I'd like to first of all congratulate Councillor Stokes on producing this budget. We all know that this has not been easy, and the one thing that's come out of this is uncertainty. The one thing that the common theme that we have now and that we will have for several months to come, in fact maybe years to come, is uncertainty over how we can make the books balance and still maintain the delivery of the services that our residents most value. But I am delighted that it's that we've come to this conclusion. There are some really good things in there. There's been some tough decisions that have already been made, and I've no doubt that there will be tough decisions to make in the future. I'm pleased that the remuneration for the loaders was included earlier in the year and is reflected in this. But we mustn't sort of sit back on our laurels, and we've got to work out a way to continue and, if you like, be agile enough to cope with the uncertainty that's likely to come. And I'm delighted to be part of the team that's doing that. So I'd like to just finally again thank Adam for his hard work and say that this provisional budget has my full support, and I hope that the consultation that we get back from the public is valuable and helps us shape this for the future. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Do I have any other Cabinet members that wish to speak on the budget?
Leader, just me, if I could.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd just like to, endorse Councillor Dr. Peter Mosley's, recommendation of accepting this. I think Adam has done, Councillor Stokes has done a tremendous job on this. It's not easy. It's very complex, and it takes a lot of time to prepare. And I fully support this. Thank you, Leader.
Brilliant. Thank you, Councillor Dobson. Moving on to Councillor Reid.
Thank you very much, Leader. I'd just like to not only support and recognise, say very much thanks to my Cabinet colleague Adam Stokes in the work that's done in producing these, but also to endorse where we are with the HRA in particular, which has been taking quite a lot of time to actually get to the presentation that we've made, against the back set of knowing that the rent setting to maximum of 1.5%. So what I've done in supporting this is we've looked at a 1-year comprehensive budget for the HRA to take into account the known compliance and indeed repairs and renewals budgets that we are doing within the year, and it's really in a sandwich, to put a sort of simile to it, that because we are looking for, and I thank members for the support for the stock condition survey, which is in the middle, and that of course will have a dominant effect on the year 2 and year 3's budgets that will follow thereon. So that is why it is a 1-year budget at this moment. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you for those comments, Councillor Reid. And if we go to Councillor Trollope-Bellew.
Thank you very much, Leader. I support everything that's been said. It's just a query, really. I notice on page 76, item 4, Guildhall Arts Centre, Grantham, at the bottom of that, meeting rooms per hour, and it has Studio 4, and then for the new price it's got 15.57. Should that be 15.50? Because I know everywhere else ends in a 0 or a 5. I'm just thinking maybe it's a typing error, and apologies that I didn't spot this earlier.
So thank you. I'll ask Councillor Stokes to respond to that one.
Thank you, Leader. I'll have to look into that with, I know Richard Wiles is on. I don't know whether he can shed some light on that as well.
Are you with us, Richard?
Yeah, sorry, my video was warming up. So, Councillor Trollope-Bellew is correct. It should be 15.50, so we'll make the amendment before it comes back to the Cabinet in February, and we'll also draw attention to it for the Budget OAC tomorrow.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Councillor Mason, next then, please.
Thank you, Leader. I've not really got much to add, to be honest. Everybody has said what I wanted to say. I'm in full support. I think Councillor Stokes and Richard Wiles and the team has done an incredible job, to be honest. We're in such challenging times, and the time and dedication that they're continually putting in to keeping on top of the budget is really brilliant. I'm in support.
Brilliant, thank you. And if I can go to Councillor Wotton, please.
Thank you very much, indeed, Chairman. Thank you for allowing me again to speak. If I could refer you to page 34, table 5. There's an item on there on the stopping of the financial contribution from the Grantham Special Expense Area towards the Grantham Carnival. Could you tell me why this is, please? And also, I've got another question as well. Thank you, Chairman.
I'll go to Councillor Stokes.
Yes, thank you, Leader. The decision was made to divert that into, because in the grass, continue to be able to cut the grass verges, and that's the decision we've taken with regards to the Grantham Special Expense Area and the headroom that we could provide in it. I mean, it doesn't preclude any Grantham councillor from giving their ward member grant towards the carnival going forward, which might help provide a better funding for the carnival. Thank you.
Chairman, if I could come back with you, that's another item I want to speak on. You've got the continuation of the £500 ward grant scheme. Why don't we, for this year, transfer that money into COVID support volunteer schemes in the Grantham district area? That would be better use of our money.
Well, I think, I mean, on a personal view, I've highly valued the local ward member grant scheme that I have received for my own ward, and I know as Councillor Trott-Bellew, the other councillor for Keswick, and I've directed mine to where I feel it was needed most. I have spent all of my ward member budget. There are a number of councillors that are still yet to spend their full allocation. I think it's a vital part of our role as a ward member in order to support residents in need for when they do approach us, and including charities and organisations. I know Councillor Mason, as the Cabinet member, probably wishes to respond to that as well. So I'll hand over to Annie. You're mute.
That's a saying, isn't it? It's going to be the same saying for 2021, I think. Yes, thank you, Leader. Yeah, I just wanted to say that we have my last figures, 23 councillors who have not yet used their ward grant. So that's £23,000 that could be put out there before the end of the financial year. So, I mean, we could communicate to the councillors and put a plea out there with regards to making sure that their remaining allowance is utilised in that way. Councillor Wootton?
Yes, Chairman, I think that's a very good idea, because they do a valuable job throughout the community, and especially one group that we supported through the County Council, Jane Robb, her group does a fantastic work. So yes, Leader, if you could encourage those who have not used their allowances to put those towards these volunteer schemes, would be a really good thing. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, of course we can on that one. And if I can bring in Councillor Reid as well, please.
Thank you very much, Leader. I just wanted to be able to share with Cabinet and with other members that here in Bourne there are 7 district councillors, and albeit we haven't drawn down the funds at this moment in time, we have collectively agreed to make sure that we cover all of the needs of Bourne, including the food bank and various other needs, and so that we give them a impartial and equal amount to each. And I'm sure other members would want me to say thank you for the inclusion of this value of money that we've been able to support our community with.
No, brilliant. Thank you for that, Councillor Reid. Just got a comment about the closing date for using the ward members' grants. I don't know which Cabinet member wishes to answer that one. Either.
I'll take that one if you want.
Okay.
It's the 31st of March.
Brilliant. There we are.
But I would just add that you do need to put your application in a little bit before that, so that we can get it processed.
Okay. Brilliant. Super. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so it has been proposed and seconded. So obviously our recommendation will then go forward to the joint budget OSC committee meeting, where we might get further recommendations and alterations to then come back to the Cabinet. So if Lucy, we could go to the vote, please.
Certainly, Leader. Councillor Callum Cook.
4.
Councillor Barry Dobson.
4.
Councillor Annie Mason.
4.
Councillor Dr. Peter Mosley.
4.
Councillor Robert Reid.
4.
Councillor Adam Stokes.
4.
Councillor Rosemary Trollope-Bellew.
4.
That's carried, Leader.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Therefore, moving on to the items for Cabinet decision, which are key, and the next agenda item is item number 6, which is the Hackney Carriage and Private Hire Licensing Policy, and we'll go to Councillor Dr. Mosley, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leader, and delighted to bring this to you after what seems like an interminable journey of this particular policy. It seems to be that things to do with hackney carriages or licensing seem to start about a year ago and eventually end up where we are now. But I'm glad that this has trundled its way through all of the hurdles that it has to flow through, so that we end up with this change in policy. It's a policy that we have to be mindful of almost all of the time, but we review periodically, and every time we do so, of course, it needs to be consulted on, and that consultation is incredibly important, and that's why we're bringing it to the Cabinet today, because the consultation has been through, and now we're able to propose this policy as a whole. So I'll just go over the recommendation. The first one is to note the results of the public consultation, and I'll go into a bit more detail on that in a minute. The second one is to approve the South Kesteven District Council Hackney Carriage and Private Hire Licensing Policy with effect from the 1st of April 2021, with the exception of reduction in vehicle age at first registration from 7 to 5 years, which will take effect on the 1st of October 2021. And finally, the third recommendation, which is to delegate to the Director of Commercial and Operations, in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Commercial and Operations, to make minor amendments to the policy, such as legislative updates, which may become necessary from time to time to ensure its continued accuracy, but do not affect its direction or intent. So we're recognising effectively that there are always small changes and that policies need to be adapted throughout that, and I hope that's taken into account. The one thing I'm particularly delighted about with regards to this end document is the emphasis that it places on the environment. As we know, just a year and a half ago, in fact less than a year and a half ago, the Council declared a climate emergency, and we've established our baseline carbon reduction plan, and we've worked hard to do as much as we can, and in fact in the last item we've once again approved a £20,000 reserve for climate activity, and it's incumbent upon us to include all of the things that we're responsible for when we look at that. And so actually a lot of these recommendations relate to environmental sustainability. So for example, decreasing the maximum age of the vehicle at first licence from 7 to 5 years it enables us to encourage our licence holders to adopt more fuel efficient and energy efficient technology and cleaner vehicles. The fact that we're offering a 50% discount off the vehicle licence fee for electric and zero emissions vehicles, all of these things go towards that. But one of the most important ones, and it's one thing that actually crosses my desk more than anything else, is when we stand out on St. Peter's Hill, quite often we get asked, why are all the taxis idling? And actually the area outside St. Peter's Hill is in fact an air quality management area. So it's it's very important for us to be able to say, well, actually, do you know what? We should be leading by example on that and asking our licence holders to do just that. And so the vehicle idling on a rank stand to be included in the local penalty point scheme is an important aspect of that. So there are lots and lots of things throughout there that we need to be mindful of. I was delighted that we got 157 replies to our consultation. That's actually more than we would normally get. It's very much fewer than I would have liked, but I think that's the case with many things, and I think people have been perhaps a bit distracted with other issues that we're all dealing with at the moment in that. But nevertheless, every response is valued and every opinion is valued, and that's why when it came to the age of the new vehicles, for example, we added a 6-month extension to that, to allow our taxi licence holders to plan better for that in the future. It will only affect a small number of people anyway. But also, I would like to point out that the taxi drivers and licence holders within our district provide a very valuable service. Their opinions are important, and their role in the community is very important, and it is valued. And the combination of their role in the community and our policy to protect and serve our residents is what we're seeing in the result today. And I would encourage our Cabinet members to vote and approve this policy. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Councillor Dr. Mosley. Do I have a seconder for this report, please?
Happy to second, Leader.
Lovely. Thank you, Councillor Stokes. Well, I must say that the report that Councillor Mosley's just presented, as well as the comprehensive report in the actual agenda pack, is exceptional, especially with the policy being reviewed in such a difficult time and circumstances by the whole team. And I think we're all aware of the pressures and the excellent delivery of services by that team. So I'd like to thank them for the difficult work that they undertake, especially around the COVID response on a day-to-day basis, as well as bringing this forwards. But if I could bring in Councillor Mason first, please.
Thank you, Leader. Just wanted to say really that I'm in support of the recommended options. Delaying the implementation date to the 1st of October makes sense in this difficult time. It just gives them a little bit more time, and there's some excellent points within this report. So I'm fully in support. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Do I have any other Cabinet members that wish to speak on this document? No, then I'll ask Councillor Dilks then, please.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cook. I just wanted to say and support, give support from the other side of the, I'm sure there's broad support for this right across the council chamber. It has, as Councillor Peter Mosley said, it's been, I think he said it was taken nearly a year. I think it's took well over a year to get to this stage. But that means it's gone through, all the processes and the consultation. And this is a real improvement. The idling on the ranks is what is an issue. And also, I think there is broad support for the English tests, because what this is all about is protecting those who get into taxis. It's a public service, and it is a responsibility of the council to do that. So I just want to say it's really welcomed. It's an improvement, and I'm sure it is welcomed right across the council chamber. And I'm particularly encouraged to see that in the consultation that you held with the taxi drivers themselves, there was also broad support for most of the measures. I really welcome it. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you. With no further speakers then, it has been proposed and seconded. So Lucy, can we move to the vote, please?
Yes, certainly, Leader. Councillor Kellam Cook.
4.
Councillor Barry Dodson.
4.
Councillor Annie Mason.
4.
Councillor Dr. Peter Mosley.
4.
Councillor Robert Reid.
4.
Councillor Adam Stokes.
4.
Councillor Rosemary Trollope-Bellew.
4.
That's carried, Leader.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So moving on to the next agenda item, which is number 7, which is the Voids Process and Performance Housing Technical Services. And I'll hand over to Councillor Reid, please.
Thank you very much, Leader. Firstly, I'd like, by way of introduction, to say that the Rural Overview and Scrutiny Committee considered the proposals in some detail on the 7th of January and confirmed its support to the proposals unanimously, endorsing option 2 within the report. The report identifies the initial early wins that can be achieved, but also identifies how to take forward the more complex challenges leading to the delivery of the Voids policy document for members to consider later in the year. Key elements of the proposals identify current poor performance when compared with other similar district councils. This is especially so in the context of days taken to process voids and the costs currently incurred. Additional proposals around structure changes are identified, and I must say welcome, so as to reduce the impact of silo working and bring the teams together under a single manager to improve efficiency and effectiveness. Process changes are identified to reduce timelines from key to key completion of the tasks, which should reduce overall days lost and rent losses incurred. Initial potential savings are given relating to the early change proposals within the potential benefits to the HRA, ranging from somewhere between 800,000 and I have to say 1.2 million per annum. This, of course, will have a great impact, as we've spoken earlier about our HRA budgets. Rent loss reduction figures are not included in these figures. Reference is made to the Northgate Integral Housing Management System being critical, and I do emphasise critical, to the further process being made to reduce the administration processes within the allocations. This new system will be subject to further member consideration in due course, and I have made provision within the 21-22 budget, subject to its complete endorsement, to be included. Issues associated with the management of materials and stock inventory systems are also highlighted, and new van impress systems to improve stock control and the efficiency of the workforce is proposed. Identification of new KPI reporting and a revision of the current void standards is to take place, with the OSC receiving a further report relating to these matters on February the 21st. And our intention is that in the future we will be able to make comparables between one dashboard and the next, and that can be, as we've agreed with the OSC, that can be a standard item of agenda, and so therefore will not miss our radar again. Following all revisions of the policy and processes, a full revised voids policy document will be submitted to Cabinet later this year for approval and adoption. This policy document will be reviewed every 3 years. I think it's very important that we need to put the voids policy right and then endorse it with the policy. I do ask for further consideration, particularly because of the valued and much wanted work that is given through our Rural and Communities Scrutiny Committee. And so therefore, within this proposals that we're putting forward, I wanted to make Cabinet members, and indeed all members that are listening today, just aware of how they arrived at their decision of being unanimous in supporting the voids policy. It's recommended that the committee notes that the report, and particularly the potential operational and financial benefits identified in the report by adopting the changes proposed, supports the initial steps proposed to inform performance and the future work needed to achieve a final revised policy proposed is critical to the overall process. Receives, as I've mentioned earlier, at the next meeting, a proposed performance dashboard of key performance indicators. And to that end, the committee supports option 2 because it's a viable option that captures the core elements of the changes highlighted within the report detailed today. The primary benefits of this option are to streamline void processes to reduce the overall period and reduced rent loss. Introduce a key safe system at voids of properties to reduce the days lost for key returns. Tighter contract and project management of external contractor activities. Virtual inspection processes to improve in the inspection regime leading to a relet. And I really, it's like having 3 carriages. One, we have of the void happening. Secondly, we have an identification of it either being a minor or major void, and then we have the voids inspection, and they're like 3 separate carriages, and we need to actually get them connected up and drawn by one single manager on the train. So merging of major and minor voids team under one single management post they endorse. better van stock process to reduce the loss of time collecting materials rather than going backwards and forwards. When they find what's identified on a job, they will keep a standard stock on their vehicles. Early review of current void standards for the consideration by members, and to reduce costs associated with the void through tighter specification control. So basically, what I've said by way of introduction, I hope that I have explained the clarification that the much valued meeting last Thursday has actually also endorsed. And to that end, Leader, I am therefore happy to recommend this voids process and performance services for Cabinet to note. My ears will be open for any additions or any further thought that could come. I've endorsed the rural and scrutiny's findings. It gives a promise of a 6-month coming back with an implementation of the options in option 2 that we have made. It receives a comprehensive report to come back within 12 months. And of course, we will be having the dashboards that are going to go onto the OSC as a standard item of each of their future meetings, and that officers, most importantly, update Cabinet on the progress made to introduce the Impress van stocks through a preferred supplier and the impacts anticipated in the context of the current stores and stock arrangements to be subject to a further report to Cabinet. At the time of talking to all of my colleagues, we are also in the final stages of consultation with HR as to the remuneration of our engineers from the current arrangements to this more accountable one. Thank you very much. I look forward to summing up.
Super. Oh, I hope that was very comprehensive, Robert. No, thank you for that. And I'm also aware of that this report has been fully debated at the recent Rural and Communities OSC. So thank you, Robert, and the team for starting the process to develop a voids policy that supports the use of our important housing stock, but also ensures that the vacancies occur and the relets happen in the shortest possible time. That was a very comprehensive report that you've just provided to all of us on the Cabinet today. It's vital as we continue to make further improvements to our housing stock and particularly our housing management. And obviously, I'm sure we'll all look forward to the further conversation taking place at the OSC meetings. So if I'm happy to second this, and I'm happy then to go to Councillor Dr. Mosley, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leader, and thank you very much, Councillor Reid, for that. I seem to remember many years ago I might have sat as the Vice Chairman of the Governance and Audit Committee, and voids came up back then, and there were many questions about it. I think this is absolutely the right direction to be going in, to finally have a proper policy where we can, be confident that the value of our stock is being treated with the respect that it deserves, and that the time between, one resident vacating and another taking up residence is as short as possible. I think there's lots of really good stuff in here, especially with regards to things like stock control, key safes, etc. All of those things, in fact, if I remember rightly, the governance and audit thing was about collecting keys, I think, back then. So this just answers all of those really important questions, and I'm fully supportive of this process. I'm absolutely sure it's going to be a bit of a movable feast in terms of once you actually get going and actually implement it, that there are going to be some changes, and I'm sure that they'll be done with the benefit of the information and for the benefit of improving the processes as we move forward. And I'm sure that Robert will be the right man to make sure that happens. So fully supportive. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. And do I have any further Cabinet members first that might wish to speak, please? No. Then Councillor Baxter, if you'd like to address your question.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm really pleased that this has finally become a thing, because as Councillor Mosley and Councillor Reid said, we've been waiting for it for absolutely ages, and as a ward member I do get queries about why is this house empty when I'm looking for a place, and I appreciate the support that the housing team have given me in solving that in the absence of a voids policy recently. However, my question is about the Northgate system that Councillor Reid says we are investing in. This Northgate system has been mentioned at committee meetings for well over a year, and most recently at the Rural Communities Committee before Christmas, where we discussed the debacle of the Riverside and the General Housing Department. And I specifically asked about the Northgate software. And I then followed up that question with a question to the head, an email to the head of housing, copied in Councillor Reid at the time, asking why do we currently pay Northgate software about £100,000 a year? What do we get for that money? And so as a follow-up, are we continuing to pay the current £100,000 a year? Have we considered a separate software provider? And how much more are we going to give to Northgate software for the new improvements to the voids policy? And how's that been budgeted for?
Thank you for those questions. Mr. Chris Stratford, are you online with us today?
I am indeed, Leader. If I can just get my video working for you. There we go.
Brilliant.
Yes. Okay. Just in relation to the Northgate system and the current expenditure on it, I think it's all classified under Northgate, but it actually, the expenditure that we incur each year is a little bit more than just the Northgate system. It also relates to Apex asset management system and some other software support that we get, but it's all classified under what's regarded as being Northgate, which is the housing management software system. I have seen Councillor Baxter.
Sorry, Chair, if I may interrupt.
Councillor Baxter, can we firstly allow Mr. Stratford to answer your questions, and then if there is another point, then you can come back in after that.
It's not another point, Chair. I just want to clarify.
Sorry, Councillor Baxter, I'd like to hear from Mr. Stratford first, and then I'll come back to you.
I have seen Councillor Baxter, and forgive me if you've not actually seen it yourself or it's been given to you, but I've actually seen the breakdown of costs that relates to the 100k per year, and I had assumed that you had also been sent that breakdown of costs for your own purposes, given that you raised it last time. If that's not the case, then I'm happy to ensure you get that later this afternoon, and I'll instruct the head of housing services to send that to you. So that will give you clarity about how the £100,000 is made up. So that's the first point. In relation to the Northgate system itself, the new Northgate system will be marginally more expensive, but you're getting significantly more system than you currently do. Your current Northgate system, I think, was installed back in something like 2007, 2008. So is a very, very old system indeed in terms of technology. More importantly, the actual upgrades to many of the modules that the current housing management system requires to operate efficiently and effectively have not been implemented. They've either not been bought or they've not been switched on and used in the way that they should have been over the years since you acquired the system. So the system is not only archaic in the way that it actually functions, but it also has many of its additional bolt-ons that you would expect to see coming along each year, which have been left off the system as well. So you're actually operating on a system which is very old, but also not in its entirety in terms of its current capabilities, which I have to say are very, very poor when you compare them with other types of systems. Now, in relation to Northgate versus other systems, what I would say is the number of suppliers that are available to housing and RPs generally for their integrated housing management systems has decreased significantly over the last 10 years. And I think there are only probably 3 major players now that are left within the marketplace itself for integrated housing management systems. The reason that Northgate is certainly the front runner from this local authority's perspective, but also, I guess, if you look across the piece and across the marketplace, is that where you have a system, even if it's old and archaic, that is in place, the requirements to change from one platform to another are significantly reduced in terms of complexity and in terms of time and in terms of cost and in terms of hardware and software acquisitions that you need to make. Secondly, the staff training, which is significant anyway when you move to any new system, and this one will be substantially different from the one that you've got, is very much reduced as well in terms of what we need to teach the staff and also our own IT staff in supporting and being involved in the delivery of that new system. And thirdly, we hope that it will be as effective and as efficient as it can be by not having to increase our own local server provision for the new software acquisition and the new structure that the Northgate system will have. So overall, when you look at time, when you look at cost, when you look at training, when you look at complexity, then the Northgate system, the new Northgate system, seems to be the most appropriate option, the most efficient option, the most effective option for the council.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Mr. Stratford. Councillor Batchelor, if you'd like to be brief and just in response, because I know you wish to just clarify a couple of points.
Yes, I did ask this question of Mr. Stratford via email on the 6th of December, and the £100,000 I got from the items paid over £500. So the money was paid to Northgate. I thank Mr. Stratford for his comprehensive yet belated answer, but really it is shocking, and it's not Mr. Stratford's fault. He's only just arrived. But to say that we've been paying £100,000 a year or equivalent since 2007 and not using the system to its full advantage and not even knowing what it does, even though I've asked questions, but also committees, scrutiny committees have asked questions about what it is. Absolutely shocking, and just kind of adds fuel to the debacle of the housing department. I'm glad it's finally being sorted out.
Brilliant. Thank you. And if I could ask Councillor Dilks, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. As colleagues have, I think we agreed, it's been the report is long awaited, and I thank colleagues and Mr. Stratford for the honesty in saying that, frankly, things haven't been done as well as they ought to have been done in the past. And this is, I really welcome the report. It is hopefully the start of getting things better and providing a better service. I'm concerned on the voids as a ward member, having seen, as I am sure we've all, we all from time to time sort of see, get invited to sort of look at the state of people's homes that they've been handed by the council. And so I welcome, I hope that the system that we're putting in, Councillor Reid, and I'm sure it is, going to not just cut down the time we spend on voids, but also improve the state of the properties that we hand over to people, and sometimes they just have not been good. And that leads me to my question, and really, I think we all agree that if you give somebody something that is in good condition to begin with, it will promote pride in their home, in their future home, and pride in the community as well, I think. Leads me to my question, which is what isn't in the report, and I have, we've had chats I've had chats with Councillor Reid about the possibility of how we can actually get ward members involved at the coal phase to actually see and when the property is ready. Some of these properties, they take 3 months for the work to carry out. Hopefully that's going to reduce, but it is a fairly long job, and I'm not asking for every ward member to look at every void, but I do think there is potential for some sort of system to be set up to give ward members an opportunity to see at least some of the voids, whether before and after. Well, yes, before and after, and that would help us scrutinise the process and give us confidence that we are improving things. I hope that could be considered. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Dills. Mr. Stratford.
Just on the more general question before I deal with the specific of the void standard. That is one of the first things we're going to bring back for members to review, both through OSC and Cabinet, and hope to start that process off, as I say, next month. Your current voids standard has been in place now for quite some considerable time and has not been reviewed. It's good practice to review your void standard every 3 years at the most, really, but you should keep it under constant review to make sure that you are obviously reflecting the standard that both members, but more generally the council, would wish to see in properties being let to its tenants. In terms of the specific requirement of members being involved, or at least understanding or physically seeing voids that are prepared and are available for handover, I think that starts with reviewing the voids standard next month. You'll have a chance to do that, and I'm absolutely happy that members should have an opportunity, if they wish, to then see a sample of properties through the year that are being made available and ready for letting, and that are being ready for let against that new standard, to ensure that you are getting what's actually written within the policy itself. There's no problem with that. I think we can accommodate that quite easily. It's just a question, obviously, of agreeing appropriately with members the logistics around how that might work.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mr. Stratford.
Thank you very much.
We'll pick that up with Councillor Reid as well. If I can just quickly, before I bring in Councillor Reid to sum up before we go to the vote, Mr. Wiles, I think you wanted to mention a couple of things about the Northgate system.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I was just ready to endorse some of the commentary that Chris has been updating us on, really, that Northgate is a market leader in many areas of council services, and for revenues and benefits, for example, it's been a system that's been implemented and used by this authority for a number of years, alongside a lot of neighbouring authorities, both in Lincolnshire and beyond. So it's just to provide some reassurance that Northgate, certainly in some of the areas that we've deployed it, both currently and proposing to deploy it, is tried and tested, and will deliver, I'm sure, the service improvements that Chris has outlined. So it's just to provide reassurance. Thank you, Leader.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. And I'll hand back over to Councillor Reid to sum up then, please.
Thank you very much, Leader. Well, it's good to listen to the debate and indeed the questions of non-cabinet members too. So here we go. My next on the block for the second time, first with compliance and now with voids. In putting my head on the block where voids is concerned, and a much more proactive and monitored way forward, I'd like to actually just expand how I came to understand how the Northgate, or the upgraded Northgate system, would in actual fact be the right one for us at SK. You are all aware that we have had a realignment within our housing service under repairs, and indeed we've introduced a technical services manager's post, and we have a very proficient person in post as an interim at the moment. In attaining him, Chris Stratford and myself undertook 2 days of interviews to find such a person. We found perhaps one that we might have thought was reasonably suitable, but the astuteness of our chief executive sent us back to re-advertise and to do another 2 days of interviewing. It had a silver lining, because under this silver lining, one of the things I was watching amongst all the interviewees were what systems they used, what they thought of Northgate, and what they thought of the improved Northgate system. And I have to honestly say, I don't think I came across one person that actually spoke against Northgate as being the front runner. So I hope that also adds some assurance in what I'm going to be implementing. Secondly, where the voids are concerned, and indeed the inspection of voids, I'd like to share with members that I inspect randomly voids wherever I am in the district. So I have been in Market Deeping, I have been in Stamford, I have been in Grantham too, and of course at the Riverside. I have, without appointment, on several occasions met the head void inspector. And indeed, I have every confidence that with a more connected service of repairs and then handing on to allocations, we will offer in good state of repair in fact, I haven't found one yet myself that hasn't been one that has been that way. I have had reports put to me about light bulbs, rodents, various problems, but I have to say personally I haven't come across them, but I do take them honestly and at face value and believe perhaps they were there, but I am looking to an improved void service. As far as the cold face is concerned, I do really welcome, and I'm going to take the opportunity here to expand further on the working group that came out of the last full council meeting, because for me, yes, I live in Bourne, yes, I come to Grantham, but it is a very long district for me to cover. And what I am seeking is eyes and ears from each of the district pockets that know these properties. I mean, I've now visited all the sheltered schemes. I've been through quite a lot of the developments, and I know where there's problems. And so what I'm currently doing on my Todd is going back and checking various things to see if they've been done or whether I still need to chase them. So in this working group, if I can have, if they can undertake some of the local knowledge and what's happened and what needs to happen and what is still outstanding, then that's the functionality that I'm looking for on the cold face to help me. Now,
I think if I can just say, if I'm just drawing us to the end of the debate, Robert, but obviously that's also the role for all of us as elected members, as local ward members, because obviously we know our areas better than anybody else in the district as well.
Okay, so I am working because of COVID restrictions and because we're only doing emergency repairs again at the moment. It is very frustrating, but I've got a forward vision. I've got some volunteers across that have come forward. I need a couple more, which I'm going to approach. But what is most important, it's not a political balance that I'm looking here. It's for a district balance. So I've got eyes, and I've got a volunteer for Market Deeping, one from Grantham, one from Stamford. I'm approaching somebody in Bourne, and I've got a suggestion put forward by the leader so watch out who I'm going to ring up next for somebody for north of Grantham too. But having done this, that's what we're going to be doing is sort of explaining some of the difficulties I come across, some of the things on the cold face. This group of people, I need them to assist me and help me in across the district awareness. I guess I probably said, I bet you're wondering when I'm going to shut up.
Well, I didn't say that, Robert. You've certainly had an extensive report and an extensive sum.
Well, I'm sorry, but it's emotive, and this void problem is costing us money, and it's taking us twice as long as it should do, and so therefore that's how it is. So I'd like to put the recommendations forward, and I look for a seconder unless somebody's got.
I've already done that, Robert. I've already done it.
All right, thank you.
So thank you for that, and I think it's I think everybody's obviously going to support you with this, as it's all a team effort, and obviously all of us in our own respective wards as well. So Lucy, if we could move to the vote then, please.
Certainly, Leader. Councillor Callum Cook.
4.
Councillor Barry Dobson.
4.
Councillor Annie Mason.
4.
Councillor Dr. Peter Mosley.
4.
Councillor Robert Reid.
4.
Councillor Adam Stokes.
4.
Councillor Rosemary Trott-Bellew.
4.
That's carried, Leader.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So moving on to agenda item number 8, which is the procurement of housing stock condition survey. And again, I will hand over to an introduction by Councillor Reid, please.
Okay, well, you'll be relieved at the outset, thank you, Leader, that I shan't be quite so long about this one. However, I would like to firstly thank the support at full council for the amendment that was made so that we could expedite the stock condition sourcing, which I will speak a little bit later on. So this is a critical element on the journey to compliance and begins the process of understanding stock investment priorities and the production of a new asset management plan. That's an interesting point to stop, as that is something I know the Chief Executive is also very keen from her arrival at expanding on. And revise the HRA business plan. The key messages are that this starts the journey of the compliance renewal. The survey will undertake critical understanding of stock condition to enable investment priorities to be reprofiled. All tenants will be visited by a surveyor to complete an internal and external inspection of property elements. And I'm also aware, and it's also a very good intervention, that we wish local people with local knowledge to also be employed to actually undertake part of this survey. The results of the survey will be electronically loaded onto the council's asset management system so officers can develop 5- and 10-year investment plans. Let's not forget the last real stock condition survey we had was in 2007, which will then be articulated by the way of a detailed asset management plan. The current 1-year HRA investment plan will then be reviewed and a new 3-year HRA investment plan budget restored from the 22-23 financial year, as indeed I alluded to when we were talking about budgets earlier. The recommended appointment of the preferred contractor has been carefully considered and made via an approved framework provider. This is fully compliant with Council's procurement process. The contractor will commence on the survey work as soon as possible after the necessary OSC and Cabinet consideration, i.e. where we are here today. The budget of 780,000 has been approved by full council, as I've aforementioned. The preferred contractor has confirmed costs and most importantly has come in within the budget approved. Officers will provide bi-monthly upgrades and updates of the process of the OSC relating to the ongoing survey work and confirm a final completion date once this is available. And to that end, Leader, I will refer back to another situation that we are going to have a red, amber, green dashboard. So we are going to be able, so members are going to make comparables, and so that the situation that I have been in receipt of to improve, along with Karen, along with Chris Stratford, along with yourself, people will be able to be quite easily and quite readily be able to ask us questions as to what improvement and what steps along the way we are making, and to be right candid about it, is I'm hoping will actually match the sort of material we say in Skyline, and we will be able to enjoy a better council stock that is run better, and indeed the care of the people that live in our homes, our tenants. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, thank you for that, Councillor Reid. And I think, as it's been said, this report is obviously requesting a contract to be let to ensure all of our housing properties are surveyed, to ensure that as a landlord, we are very clear on the improvements and repairs that we need to undertake. I think these survey results will certainly assist the team and members making more informed decisions in the near future and will influence our spending. So once again, can I thank Robert and the team for the improvements that have already been made in the housing service, and I know there are many, many more to come. Are there any other Cabinet members that wish to speak on this agenda item? No? Then, Lucy, can we please move to the vote?
Certainly, Leader. Are you seconding the...
Yes, I'm very happy to second. Yeah.
Thank you. Then Councillor Kellen Cook.
For.
Councillor Barry Dobson.
For.
Councillor Annie Mason.
For.
Councillor Dr. Peter Mosley.
For.
Councillor Robert Reid.
For.
Councillor Adam Stokes.
For.
Councillor Rosemary Trollope-Bellew.
For.
That's carried, Leader.
Unanimous, thank you. So moving on to the items for information. So obviously agenda item number 9 is the matters referred to Cabinet by the Council or Overview and Scrutiny Committees. We don't have anything on this agenda, so they will be on the next agenda. Councillor Wharton, you've indicated you wish to speak. We don't have a report to speak on this item.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's just a matter of information, because I'm not sure if you're aware that the committee debated a anti-racism action planning policy, which was supported by Councillor Annie Mason and presented by Carol Drury. And we did have a guest speaker, Kerry Rycroft, who had been subject to anti-racial abuse. So my main point to you today is that should any of our citizens, I mean, we've got 50 different nationalities living in Grantham, should any of our citizens are subject to any racial abuse, they should make sure they report it as hate crime to the police.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'd say that 100%. They should do that straight away.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Nice, thank you. So moving on to agenda item number 10, which is the key and non-key decisions taken under delegated powers. So there are 4 decisions that have been taken. Obviously, the first one is the Investor Save Reserve, which was taken by Councillor Stokes. The second was the JC Dachau bus stops, taken by Councillor Dr. Peter Mosley. The third one was the procurement and award of contract for refurbishment works associated with the Stamford customer service point and a additional customer contact area within the Stamford Art Centre. So it's not quite a relocation. So if we can rephrase that throughout the report, as it isn't a relocation, it is an additional customer contact point. It isn't a customer service centre. And finally is the payment of goods, which was obviously taken by Councillor Stokes. Is anything else to add on those? And they are just for noting as well. So therefore we move on to agenda item number 11, which is representations and questions from non-cabinet members. So if you'd like to indicate in the chat box, then we can get cracking. So Councillor Selby, I'll let you go first.
Thank you very much indeed, Leader. I've got a comment first, please, Callum, and then I've got 2 questions. Would you like me to ask me 2 questions, and then you, the 2 different members, one is Councillor Annie Mason, I believe it comes under her portfolio, and a second question to yourself. But first of all, a comment to the Cabinet generally, if I may first. As you guys know, I disagree with you over the call-in decision that's been put off to the next meeting with regarding the £100,000 to be spent on the event for the statue. All I'll say to you is on this is that, you know, I hope you appreciate that my view coming from that is coming from a friendly position, and it's not having to go at you guys as a cabinet, because, you know, I see a lot of good work that you do. I've thoroughly enjoyed this meeting this afternoon, listening to you guys. And you know, and as councillors, you know, it's often the case that if we make one mistake, we always get remembered for that one mistake, and all the good work
that we do is totally overlooked. And I just caution you with that decision you're going to be making. And I just hope that all the good work that you do, that we've been seeing in this meeting today, is not totally overlooked by one decision that may be seen by the public as being unfavourable. So as a friendly advice, if you like, I would say just be cautious with that calling motion at the next meeting. My two questions. One is to Councillor Annie Mason. I'm a little concerned in the community at this moment in time for the vulnerable in our community. We were on our third lockdown. Now, the first lockdown, it felt like a lockdown. And the second lockdown that we had, it didn't feel like a lockdown to me, but this third one that we're in, we don't really know how long it's going to last, do we? With the powers that the police are going to be given appear to become more stringent now, and in many respects it's a good thing. My question to Annie is regarding the befriending service that we undertook during the first lockdown, and I don't really know personally how it's been progressing. If she could just give us an indication of how that is progressing, if it's been undertaken during this third lockdown, how important does she feel that will be in our community? As I say, thinking about the most vulnerable in our community, I'd really appreciate if she could just give us an update on that and her views on that. And my question to you is, Kellum, we had some sad news on New Year's Day. What a wonderful gentleman, and I'll say absolute gentleman in our community, Mr. Terry Shelburne, the artist, sadly passed away. And you may recall I asked you about a certain painting of Margaret Thatcher that you may wish to dig out of the archives at Lincoln. I would just like to ask you how you're getting on with that, any progress on that, and also so with regarding Terry, his contribution to our community was absolutely phenomenal. It really was. It was over many, many years. He will be so fondly remembered in our community. And I just think that we should have some sort of event, some sort of commemoration for Terry. And as I say, he was just such a wonderful human being. I'm so proud to call him a friend of mine. Yeah, he'll be so sadly missed. He really was. So just your thoughts on that, please, Kellum. And I say thank you for allowing me to speak.
Not at all. I'll go to Councillor Mason first, then, please.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Selby. So obviously, as you know, in March when we first went into lockdown, we offered a befriending service through the community hub, and that was made up of district councillors and also staff members. And now when services started to resume, so when we started to come out of lockdown, myself and Ken Lyons worked very closely with two voluntary organisations, Beehive and Evergreen, and they took over the befriending exercise with the residents that still wanted to continue, and indeed some councillors also continued with some of the befriending calls that they were undertaking. Since they took it over, it's worked very well. The residents are very happy. We have had a couple of residents and district councillors contact us to be added onto the befrienders scheme. So of course we've discussed with Evergreen based in Stamford, and Beehive is based in Grantham, and between them they more or less cover the whole of our district, and they're more than happy to take any other residents within their wings and provide a befriending service. Obviously it is still over the telephone because we're not allowed to do face-to-face contact. But the hope is that in time we'll be able to extend that, or Evergreen and Beehive will be able to extend that and actually provide face-to-face befriending activities. So indeed we are still very mindful of the requirements of our residents, Councillor Selby, and if you do know anybody who needs a befriender, please do get in touch with us. I hope I've answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Councillor Mason. So I think firstly, obviously, I accept your comments that you've made in relation to the Thatcher statue. Obviously, this agenda for the Cabinet was published before the OSC committee meeting. So obviously that will be at the next meeting of this cabinet. In terms of Terry Shelbourne, it was exceptionally sad news. In fact, even in my office in Grantham, I do have the sketch that he did of me in the Grantham Journal newspaper, which he used to do, I think, every week. So I have got that framed in my office. I know that Michael Cross has already been in contact about the potential lending from the collection, that particular painting that you've referenced. I know you sent me a photograph of it, and it's quite a striking painting. And I think in terms of what you've mentioned about commemorating his life and about his death, I think that there is a thing about after COVID, it's about if we can do an event or some sort of commemoration, not just for Terry, but also for those that have also suffered during COVID and lost their lives. And I know a friend that I used to work with in Stamford, she's looking to put on a festival in Stamford when we come out of COVID, really to thank all the volunteers in the NHS as a sort of as a thank you party, a commemoration to those that have sadly lost their lives. So I think there's certainly something we should be looking to do after we come out of this pandemic.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
That's all. Thank you. And if I could go to Councillor Ray Wotton next, then please.
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Mr. Chairman. Thank you again for letting me speak. Just to inform the Cabinet that on the 18th of December, we had the Lincolnshire Police and Crime Panel confirmation hearing for the new Chief Constable, Chris Hayward. And it's Hayward, but pronounced Hayward. His intention is to communicate and liaise with as many people, including parish councils, as possible. And I've also invited him to come to Grantham once the coronavirus is passed, to meet the Cabinet and also to meet local businesses, which I think is very good news. Thank you.
No, thank you, Councillor Wilson, and obviously I'm looking forward to meeting the new Chief Constable, and of course, and he'd be very welcome in between that time to attend a virtual all members briefing to meet councillors of this organisation if he wishes to do that soon, and the offer is certainly there for him.
Thank you.
So we can go to Councillor Baxter, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask about the Crotus report, the report which has come up with 29 recommendations from an external consultancy, some of which are workable, some of which are quite frightening from a ward member point of view. Could you please tell me what progress has been made and what the flight path is and the likely timescale is for consideration and adoption or rejection of the measures within? Thanks.
I will ask in the first instance Councillor Reid, and then if the Chief Executive would like to follow up on any points.
Yes, thank you. Lady, just give me 1 second. I'll just change book. Now back into the planning book. A very welcome question. Thank you very much, Ashley, and gives me the opportunity of being able to give you an upgrade. Yesterday, I'd like to firstly tell you that right, let me just go through a little process. December the 23rd, after planning committee, our new interim Jeff Upton had a meeting with Bob Adams, the chairman, and myself as to the way forward with the findings from the Crotus review. We asked him, as a fresh pair of eyes, to have digested the report which we gave him when he started with us, and to come forward and to come back with his consideration of how he felt the recommendation and the report had been delivered. To that end, Bob Adams, Chair, Councillor Bob Adams, and myself went through the recommendations that we felt we could jointly agree upon and share with our committee members that wouldn't need any further address. Those that would is one part. The second part, those that would need further consultation and involvement of Crotus, and indeed that would form the character of the SKDC implementation of the report that was given, acknowledging the fact that we would not be likely to be endorsing the whole 100%. but we would be, because there were one or two things in there, like a recommendation of having a north and south sub committees that we didn't feel, and one or two other things. So that's where we were. Following that, we had a meeting yesterday, a meeting that took 2 hours and 40 minutes, in fact, between Jeff Upton, myself, and Councillor Bob Adams, in which we have now gone through the whole 29 recommendations. We've got them into categories. We are now categorised to have a debrief, one from Kratos on the items that we want to debrief on, and that will be for the chair, the vice chair, and myself. And then we shall include committee members on our side. Quite importantly, Jeff Upton, who holds both the policy and development manager interim position, as you well know, he will be doing a debrief with officers. Now, we have a mind that we are going to jealously regard and keep the betterment, for want of not a terribly good word, of the relationship and the between officers and members, and that we intend to endorse the findings that we agree to adhere to. In that process, we will then separate anything that needs to go to Constitution for a ratification, and indeed I am hoping that it will leave a legacy that from myself and from the planning chairman, and indeed from chief executive and the leader, the four of us, that we have made a better planning delivery service. And I trust that that perhaps gives you an update of where we're actually to. In closing, the answer on that one is that Jeff Upton has been tasked with the job yesterday of making a further appointment with Kratos to undertake those parts that we wish for them to help us with. Thank you, Leader.
If I could bring the Chief Executive in, please.
Thank you, Leader. Afternoon, members. Here I am from home through our lockdown.
We can see your chair, Chief Executive. I think the camera's outside.
Presumably in the room.
Can you see my chair, or?
I think you might need to spin the camera on. There we go.
Yeah. Can you see me? Am I back with you?
No, you've gone again.
Is that better?
Bingo.
Yeah, you got me. Lovely. Sorry, I'm working off an iPad at the moment at home before getting onto the main system. So thank you, Councillor, for that update on the planning review. The planning review that was undertaken by Kratos. As Robert has clearly outlined there, we've got 3 categories now, or 3 proposals. There'll be potentially a number of items that we do not want to progress. There's a number of items that we'll be seeking to progress with the internal team, supported by committee members, and then there'll be a number of items that we'll seek further support from Kratos on. There's high energy behind it. There's very much support from the officer team, the cabinet lead member, and the planning chairman and vice chairman. So looking forward to the pieces of work being brought forward. As Robert outlined there, if there are constitutional amendments, that will need to therefore be considered by the Constitution Committee, and then the Constitution Committee would then report it to Council. So still a significant piece of work to move this forward, but the right energies are behind it. Thank you.
Chief Executive. If I could go to Councillor Stevens, please.
Hello, yes, I'm here. I'm just getting my video on. Sorry. It was just really to say, to absolutely agree with what everyone said this afternoon, Leader, about the coming out of this, and the fact that so many people have lost their lives during this awful year and haven't been able to have the normal send off that we would like to give our friends and loved ones and notable people, certainly in the Deepings that we've lost this year. So I've actually this afternoon been speaking to some of the local churches to see if we can have a big sort of memorial service, certainly in Deeping going forward. So yeah, absolutely reiterate what you're saying. I hope we'll be able to do that perhaps in all of our communities, and we can have the bells ringing out across the whole of the district on one particular day to sort of synchronise it all as a real, kind of gesture, I think.
Well, that does sound a good idea.
Okay, thanks very much. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Councillor Adams.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I just want to add to the comments that Councillor Reid and Karen Bradford have made. Certainly from Robert Reid and myself's angle, Chairman, we're very conscious that the planning function is very much a front-facing job that we do on behalf of the residents of this district, and that we're very conscious that whatever decisions we make are going to impact on the residents of this district by virtue of the developments that take place. And I suppose it's fair to say that Kratos' angle is to help developers get through as quickly as possible planning applications, and while we don't disagree with that thinking, nevertheless we are elected to represent the residents of this district, and our primary concern is their future and the impact, whatever we decide, we must be very conscious of the impact that it makes on the people that are affected by that development. I'm very grateful, Leader, for the support that both you, Robert, and Karen have given this process, and I can assure members that, or reassure members that the eventual outcome will be in the best interest of the residents of South Kesteven District Council going forward. We've got a mammoth agenda, and yes, the slicker, smarter, smoother, whichever is the in word at the moment, we can make it, is going to benefit everybody concerned. I think Councillor Reid would agree with me. We're not going to rush this. We've got this one opportunity to get it right, going way to the future, and we will be very mindful of the thinking and the ethics behind what we're trying to achieve. Thank you, Leader.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Adams. You're absolutely right. It is that, in the best interest of us, our role as a local planning authority. Councillor Reid, I think you wish to comment.
Thank you very much. Just following on from that, I endorse what Councillor Bob Adams has said, and in particular he'll smile in a minute because we both meant to say it and haven't actually said it, that we owe a great degree of gratitude and respect to our committee members, and we intend to consult with them after the debrief, as I did mention, but I'd like to reiterate it. And I'd also like to just take reference to a question that was asked of me some 2 weeks ago. Can I ask you a question, Robert? Are you intending to take power away from members in the planning committee? And my reply was, well, if you were expecting that to happen, you got the wrong person. What I intend to do, and it gives me a lovely opportunity here to say it, is that we are on the road to having a much better relationship, nearly a one relationship between members and officers, and that's what we will be delivering. That is what we are moving towards, and I've been testing people to see that they are beginning to feel the ways that we have been dealing with this is the feeling of the members around us. So I'm looking forward to continuing to the rollout, including our committee members for the district and the people that we serve, and try to preserve where they live, as well as support a growth agenda. Thank you.
For the record, Leader, I did smile.
Thank you. But yes, no, absolutely, and the points have been made. This review that was done by Kratos is not just about developers; it's about making sure that we've got that robust, efficient process within the council, and obviously it's not about power, but clear delegations and trust between members and officers, not just committee members, but also all of our roles as a local ward member. So therefore, moving on from agenda item number 11, we go on to agenda item number 12, which is the Cabinet Forward Plan, which is on page 303. So does anybody have anything they wish to say on this?
Yes, Leader.
Councillor Reid?
I'm sorry to report at this moment that I'm pretty sure the Stamford North is now supposed to be coming back in February, owing to circumstances beyond the control of SKDC. We'll have to withdraw that for the moment. It's already been pushed back once. And when we are in a greater position with both the landowners and indeed the neighbouring authority, Rutland, we will re-agenda it. Thank you.
That's lovely. Thank you very much. Therefore, moving on to the final agenda items. So under urgent items, we do not have anything. Under exempt items, we just have the exempt minutes on the land acquisition in South Kesteven, which is on page 309. Now, this is pink paper. Do Cabinet members wish to enter into this discussion? I would propose not. Therefore, with that is the end of our agenda, and we have concluded all business on the paperwork. So thank you very much for your attendance today, and I'll look forward to seeing most of you probably at the Budget Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting. So thank you for your attendance.
So till tomorrow, Leader.
Till tomorrow. Goodbye.
See you. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you very much.